Hello, my name is William Hurlis, and I try to run a small Etsy shop called MokeysHandicrafts. I'm going to try to make some resin stuff today. I've already mixed my resin, and I've already put it through a vacuum to suck all the air out of it, and I'm basically trying to let it set for a moment to get some of the air bubbles out. I think I'll take a lighter to it real quick. They'll settle out on their own, but the lighter's set way too much. My goal here is to make some resin coasters that have some buttons and some holographic butterfly stickers embedded in them. There's all kinds of ways of pouring this, but I'm not going to get crazy with it. I'll deal with the bubbles as they come. What I'm trying to do is just trying to get an even pour. I try to plan ahead and make some extra resin, but sometimes, sometimes you mess up. So I try to get an even pour of resin. I'm using the end of a little makeup brush kind of thing, and I just took the swab kind of thingy off of the end of it and just left a little plastic pokey thing. I'm using it to get in the corners to try to dislodge any air bubbles. This usually works pretty well, believe it or not. When you pour resin, it has a bad habit of causing air to get trapped in corners and crevices and whatnot. So I tend to try to stir it, slowly stir it, to try to dislodge any air bubbles. I'm going to go ahead, I guess, and try to put in some of these stickers. These things are notorious. Any sort of big object will likely try to trap air. What I try to do is kind of set it on there and then try to let the I forgot the thing that you call it, where water tries to suck things into it. I hate when I can't remember words for things. But I'll peck at it and try to make sure that it's not going to have, air bubbles in it. It probably will anyway. That's just how resin is sometimes. wanted to try to get the butterflies done first before I moved on to the buttons, because I wanted to have the buttons around the butterflies. These buttons that I'm using, I got them cheap on Amazon, and they're heavy and they sink. And I'm kind of thankful for that, because a lot of times when I put stuff in resin, it has a bad habit of floating. But with these, I could just sort of set them in there and they'll stay where I put them. Try to get as many of these in here as I can. I generally, like I said, just try to let the resin take it, and then try to massage it to where I get all the little bubbles out. And there will probably still be bubbles. I've tried dipping the stickers in resin and then putting them in there, and that works to some degree. And I tried this where I just kind of let the resin take it into itself, and that seems to work about the same. I hate that, that's just how it is sometimes with resin. That may be too big for that. We'll find out in a minute. I'll just barely fit. I try to measure these out pretty good ahead of time, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes they don't fit. I try my best to get all these air bubbles out. Yeah, I do tend to try to work from one end to the other, but it is what it is. This one I'd like to have slid around a little bit to try to dislodge air bubbles, but it's just too big to move. The bigger something is, the more likely it's going to trap air. Okay. That moved. I don't want to put any more resin in there just yet, because unfortunately I hadn't put the buttons in there yet, and because of that, if I try to fill it up and then put the buttons in there, it'll overfill. I'm running out of time. You really only have about 10 or 15 minutes to work with this stuff. I hate that, but that's just how resin is. Will I get done? Will it mess up on me? I guess we'll find out. This is my first video doing stuff like this, so yep. I'm going to try to get these buttons in here as quick as I can because the clock is ticking and resin will harden up on me. Some of these buttons are weird. I don't know where they got these buttons from on Amazon. Some of them are really pretty and some of them are kind of weird looking. I probably just had a bunch of stuff that they didn't need, threw it into a huge pile and sold it. Still though, it's cool having all these buttons. I use baby wipes to try to keep my hands clean, but when the baby wipes get a little bit too dried off or used, they start shedding little cotton fibers everywhere, which I don't like. There's a button that won't fit. I've got to hurry, so I'm gonna try my best not to be careless with it, but this stuff's getting thick, or thicker. Resin thickens up as you're working on it, and you have to really kind of hurry. You can get resins that take all day to thicken up, but I don't tend to like to do that because then, I mean, it literally takes like days. As it is, even resin like this, you really, even after it cures, you should, let it set for a while. Keep an eye on it, because if you haven't mixed it properly, it can turn all rubbery. I mean, you basically just never know what you're going to get. At least not for sure. Until it's finished curing. I've had resin stuff that I mixed what I thought was correctly and mixed it up, and then it hardened up like normal, and then like 2 months later it was like rubbery, and I was like, well, what the heck? So yeah, I don't want that on top of there. That looks pretty decent, I suppose. There's another button here or there. Looks like it's got a fair amount of buttons here. Okay, I'm going to fill that up a little more. Yeah, this resin, it's started to heat up. Someone had to be careful. I don't want it to flash cure on me. Yeah, if you mix up too much resin or have too much resin in a large container, it can spontaneously harden up on you. I've even had resin start to smoke. It got so hot, you know, it was starting to smoke. Definitely not a good thing. Okay. Now we wait for the bubbles to come out of that. I'm hoping I can get this done before it hardens up. That button's missing a chunk. I don't know, I think buttons are pretty. I think they look a little bit too much like candy. I can definitely see why kids probably try to eat them on occasion. That was too big of a button, I think. Sometimes they had some really large buttons in here and they weren't really supposed to. There's a couple of large buttons on that one. I think that's okay though. I haven't, some of these buttons when I used them the last time to make something with resin, they slightly discolored the mold. I guess they just didn't properly fix the color in them or something. I'm not sure what that's all about. Oopsie, that's too big of a button. I feel like this needs another button or two, but what the heck? There's a real pretty little button. A little bit too big maybe, but it's really pretty. Pretty blue color. That one needs more color to it. Oh, come on, man. It ain't perfect, but I'm running out of time and I need to get this finished pouring this resin before it hardens up. Again, I try to do an even pouring because it wouldn't surprise me all of a sudden I'm out of resin. And I still need to pour more in there. Well, it looks like I got pretty good this time. That one made some weird, I think because the the resin has started to heat up and harden up a little bit. It made a kind of a weird design in the resin itself. Let me grab a small mold. I got some nice little human skull molds. I know it sounds weird to say that, but they're actually really nice little molds, and sometimes I'll fill them up with excess resin and I'll just have all these little skulls and things. And I also have these little snowflake molds that I like to fill up with excess resin. I basically just keep these little teeny weeny molds around just to try to use up some of this excess resin. You never know when you might need a little bitty snowflake or a little bitty skull or something for something else. And I also save the resin in the bottom of the jars once they harden up. Oh yeah, this stuff is definitely getting hard. Okay. Let me try to get these air bubbles out with a lighter. Yep, this is the stage where it's like thick honey. Some people will wait till resin gets to this point and then they'll start adding stuff to it. But my problem is that sometimes I've done that, and then when it's like stuff like this, it kind of push that back down. I don't want that stuff floating. Sometimes when I've tried to do stuff like that and get creative, it ends up backfiring, and stuff doesn't do what I want it to. I've had the resin move stuff around after I've placed it. In other words, as resin dries and cures, it contracts and moves a little bit. And sometimes it will literally like move things out of the way. Like I think it moved this a little bit, but if I try to move it, I wonder if it's gonna try to move it back. Poke at those little bubbles. Move some of these around just to see. Give it a try to move them back. That thing is way too much. Try to get all the last little bubbles off of there. There's a little bitty bubble inside of this little mold that I made, or the little snowflake thing. Yeah, it's too, it ain't going nowhere. I think I got just about everything. I think. I don't like this one as much because I didn't put a good enough, variation of color in it. I think I could try to put another small button or two in there, like a brightly colored one, but I worry. Like, is it gonna... Stuff that in there and let's see what it does. Let's see if I can get another one, like a bright red one or something. No, it needs a different color, doesn't it? Like green, red. Bright green is probably about as good as I'm going to get it. I mean, it's so thick right now that it may end up messing that up. Yeah, you can see how the resin's kind of... I may have messed that up a bit. I don't think I should mess with it anymore. Oh well. In other words, the resin's too thick to move around. It's gonna deform it and make it weird. Oh well. Yeah, you're always fighting against the clock when you're working on resin, and you have to try to get everything you want done as quick as you can without messing it up, and it's not always an easy job. Let me clean my hands off, and I'll check on this later after I've run it on the heating mat for a while, and you'll get to see what it's like when it's finished. I'm about to take these out of the mold now. They've been sitting for 3 hours, and I let them cool down an additional hour. This thing is a leveled table for working with resin, but it also heats up and helps you, cure your resin faster. What may be a little hard to see, because I poured some of that resin, it took too long to pour some of that resin in there. You can see there's some little swirls and marks and other things on there from the resin. That's from when the resin was starting to firm up, and that's why you have to work with resin in a hurry. Because if you don't, you'll run out of time. You only have so long to work with resin before it hardens up, and then you don't want to be messing with it anymore. That's what I was worried about was going to happen. Anyway, well, let's see what the damage is. I'll take it out of here and see what it does. This is still just a little bit warm, but not really too warm. I want to start around the edges, and then I'm hoping, there we go. It looks pretty nice to me. I mean, it ain't perfect or nothing, but it looks pretty good. I'm not seeing any weird huge bubbles or nothing, so at least this one came out pretty good. Alrighty. Let's start with this one. Now work my way around the edges. Hopefully this will stay in focus. I always worry about that with a camera like this. I'll set those there. Little bitty bubble right there. It's hard to see. I might have to go back and fill that in with a little bit of resin, or UV resin or something, depending on how deep it is. It doesn't look deep though. It looks okay. No, I'll try this one next. I always try to be really gentle with these molds. Okay. Not seeing any weird, crazy holes. That looks okay. I guess that one came out alright. Put that there. Let's try this big one. It came out okay. I noticed there's a bubble right there. It's almost impossible to do these without some bubbles. These corners on these round ones, these almost always end up with bubbles in them, but thankfully this time it doesn't look like they have any problems. This is okay. I mean, I probably should have put some more buttons in here, but I don't think it looks horrible. I had looked and it didn't look all that bad from the side. You know, I was looking like right here and it didn't look all that bad like right there, but yeah, like right here, maybe it could have used some more buttons. But I like it. I mean, it's not perfect, but resin stuff is never ever perfect. But that's kind of its charm and kind of, you know, one of its things. Let me turn this mold back the right side. I don't want to leave it like that too long. I'll put this on top of that to kind of cover it up, keep the dust out of it. Okay. We'll look at this last one and see what it does. So far, we did pretty good. Let's see. Oh, yep. No big bubbles or nothing. It did good. I'll have to let these set for a little bit, and then I'll take a Dremel and a wool, compressed felt wool bit, and I'll go around there and get the sharp edges, because that is razor sharp right there. But yeah, I'll put this one together with that one, and let's do this little skull mold. That's what I use for some of the overfill or surplus resin. Yeah, that is razor sharp right there. I like it. That's cool. Yep. This turned out pretty good. Thanks for watching.